Welcome to Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa, episode number 25 for October 16th, 2020. I am continuing on in this episode with embattled Las Vegas Justice Court Judge Melanie Andress-Tobiasson. On October 2nd, 2020, Thomas C. Bradley, attorney for the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, filed with the Supreme Court of Nevada the Commission's opposition to Tobiasson's motion to seal exhibits and documents. Excerpts are as follows. The entire document is available to view on the screenshots in this podcast. I have substituted Tobiasson's name in lieu of petitioner for clarity. Tobiasson's motion to seal is fundamentally flawed. It relies entirely on NRS 1.4655, which generally requires that the formal statement of charges be filed within 18 months of the Commission's receipt of a complaint. However, as this Court is well aware, NRS 1.4681 provides that the Commission may extend the limitations on time for good cause shown and outlines circumstances where extensions should be granted. On June 8, 2018, the Commission authorized its Executive Director to file a verified statement of complaint against Tobiasson in case number 2018-120. On December 20, 2018, the Nevada Supreme Court issued a stay of proceedings at the request of Tobiasson, which continued for a duration of over 4.5 months or 141 days. On May 10, 2019, the Nevada Supreme Court lifted its stay of proceedings. Ms. Connie Land submitted a complaint against Tobiasson in case number 2019-005, which was filed by the Commission on January 3, 2019. Due to the relatedness of the 2019 complaint with the 2018 complaint, the Commission was prohibited from proceeding with and taking any action on the 2019 complaint until the stay of proceedings issued by the Nevada Supreme Court on December 20, 2018 was lifted. On April 1, 2020, Tobiasson's then counsel of record, Dominic Gentile, filed a writ contending that the Commission must disclose the underlying confidential complaint of judicial misconduct before Tobiasson submits to an interview. The duration of the Supreme Court stay on the complaints was 12 days calculated from April 22, 2020 until May 4, 2020, the date on which the Commission decided to forego the investigatory interview of Tobiasson and proceed to require Tobiasson to respond to the complaints. The combined duration of stays issued by the Nevada Supreme Court with respect to the complaints was 280 days. The foregoing told periods do not even include the extensions of time requested by Tobiasson to answer the 2018 complaint, the multitude of delays caused by Tobiasson and or her counsel as a result of repeated cancellations of scheduled interviews to be conducted with the Commission's investigator, Tobiasson and or her counsel's unresponsiveness to the Commission investigator's many attempts to establish contact with them to confirm and or reschedule investigatory interviews of Tobiasson, or Tobiasson's removals and replacements of counsel during that time, all of which combined exceed over 2 months or 65 days. On August 6, 2020, the Commission authorized the filing of the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson, well within the 18-month statute of limitations period, taking into consideration the above-mentioned tolling periods and the extension of time limitations. On August 31, 2020, the prosecuting officer filed formal statement of charges against Tobiasson. NRS 1.4655 generally requires that the formal statement of charges be filed within 18 months of the Commission's receipt of a complaint. Tobiasson, however, failed to consider that the Commission may extend the limitations on time for good cause shown. The foregoing toll periods do not even include the extensions of time requested by Tobiasson. Accordingly, the Commission authorized the filing of the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson on August 6, 2020, well within the 18-month statute of limitations period, taking into consideration the above-mentioned toll periods and extension of time limitations. The prosecuting officer promptly filed the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson on August 31, 2020. The above-mentioned toll periods and extension of time limitations discussed herein do not even include the profound delays and severe ramifications caused by and associated with COVID-19, which effectively has resulted in the unprecedented shutdown of not only the entire state of Nevada, but the world as a whole since March 2020. The dire consequences and effects of COVID-19 standing alone provide more than the requisite good cause for the Commission to extend the time limitations herein. Tobiasson's primary claim in her most recent writ appears to be the Commission's refusal to file two motions that were not signed by counsel of record and were not served on opposing counsel in violation of the Nevada Rules of Civil Procedure. This claim is frivolous. As explained above, the formal statement of charges was timely and properly filed. Thus, pursuant to NRS 1.4687, quote, upon the filing of a formal statement of charges with the Commission by the Special Counsel, the statement and other documents later formally filed with the Commission must be made accessible to the public, and hearings must be open, unquote. Thus, Tobiasson's contention that sealing or redaction is required by state law is without merit. Moreover, this court has stated that generally the public has a right to inspect and copy judicial records. All of the documents that Tobiasson is requesting to be sealed and/or redacted are either already confidential by law and have not yet been made public, but may if admitted into evidence at the public hearing, or are the very same documents and information that Tobiasson voluntarily provided to media outlets and journalists long before the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson was filed. These very same documents are already in the public domain and have been for quite some time. See the Commission's opposition to Tobiasson's motion for stay of judicial disciplinary petition for writ of mandamus and prohibition, including exhibits containing a multitude of news articles written by the journalist who interviewed Tobiasson, filed with the Nevada Supreme Court on April 9, 2020, in case number 80904, still pending. The Commission's opposition to stay also summarized the contents of audio-recorded interviews of Tobiasson and even identified Internet links to said audio recordings. In fact, this court can hear for itself over the Internet, in Tobiasson's own voice, admit to many of the allegations contained in the formal statement of charges. Accordingly, the formal statement of charges does not contain any allegations not supported by Tobiasson's own audio-recorded statements to journalists and the evidence gathered during the Commission's investigation to date. Consequently, Tobiasson's request to seal documents and exhibits during public proceedings before the Commission and the Supreme Court have no merit. The formal statement of charges was timely filed by the prosecuting officer, as outlined above. Moreover, Tobiasson's own admissions of alleged wrongdoing, as set forth in recorded interviews that she granted to the media, have been in the public domain for several months and can be accessed over the Internet at will. Accordingly, the motion to seal should be denied. Dated the 2nd day of October, 2020, Thomas C. Bradley, Esquire. Now, these are excerpts from the declaration of Paul C. Dial, Esquire, the Executive Director and General Counsel of the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline. On April 22, 2020, the Nevada Supreme Court issued a stay of Tobiasson's investigatory interview at the request of Tobiasson, which is still pending as of this date. The duration of the Supreme Court stay on the complaints was 12 days calculated from April 22, 2020 until May 4, 2020, the date on which the Commission decided to forego the investigatory interview of Tobiasson and proceed to require Tobiasson to respond to the complaints. The combined duration of stays issued by the Nevada Supreme Court with respect to the complaints was 280 days. The foregoing toll periods do not even include the extensions of time requested by Tobiasson to answer the 2018 complaint, and the multitude of delays caused by Tobiasson and/or her counsel as a result of repeated cancellations of scheduled interviews to be conducted, either in person or via Zoom, with the Commission's investigator, Tobiasson and/or her counsel's unresponsiveness to the Commission investigators' many attempts to establish contact with them to confirm and/or reschedule investigatory interviews of Tobiasson, as well as Tobiasson's removals and replacements of counsel during that time, all of which combined exceed over 2 months or 65 days. To date, Tobiasson has replaced her legal counsel on 3 separate occasions since March 7, 2020, to include, in order of representation, William Terry, Esquire, Dominic Gentile, Esquire, and perhaps Lisa Rasmussen, Esquire, who purported to file motions without being counsel of record, and is now being represented by her fourth legal team, comprised of Mark Cook, Esquire, and Thomas Sheets, Esquire, as of September 15, 2020, upon their submission to the Commission of a Notice of Appearance of Counsel. The Commission authorized the filing of the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson on August 6, 2020, well within the 18-month statute of limitations period, taking into consideration the above-mentioned toll periods and the extension of time limitations. The Commission subsequently filed the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson on August 31, 2020. Even if the Commission's authorization of the filing of the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson exceeded the 18-month statute of limitations period, which it did not, the Commission has statutory authority to extend the date on which it authorizes the filing of a formal statement of charges for good cause shown. The toll period stemming from the Supreme Court stays and the extension of time limitations do not even include the profound delays and severe ramifications caused by and associated with COVID-19, which effectively has resulted in the unprecedented shutdown of not only the entire state of Nevada, but the world as a whole since March 2020. The Commission also filed Tobiasson's motion to seal exhibits and documents on September 1, 2020, which is currently in the briefing process. It should be noted that Tobiasson's motions were prematurely filed because the case was still in its investigatory stage. The motions to dismiss should have been properly filed, quote, by a counsel of record, unquote, once the case entered into the adjudicatory stage, which occurs after formal statement of charges are filed. There is no Nevada law that prohibits the Commission to authorize a follow-up investigation during the investigatory phase of the judicial discipline process. There is no Nevada law that would permit the Commission to delegate to an independent investigator its duty to determine under the Code of Judicial Conduct whether judicial misconduct occurred. Such a delegation would constitute an impermissible usurpation of constitutional duties under the Nevada Constitution and would expressly violate NRS 1.4667, which requires the Commission, not the investigator, to determine whether there is a reasonable probability that the evidence available for introduction at a formal hearing could clearly and convincingly establish grounds for disciplinary action against a judge. Pursuant to NRS 1.4663, a Commission investigation, quote, must be conducted in accordance with procedural rules adopted by the Commission and may extend to any manner that is, in the determination of the Commission, reasonably related to an allegation of misconduct or incapacity contained in the complaint, unquote. Likewise, quote, investigations are not limited to the matters raised in the complaint. Investigations may encompass any matters either raised in the complaint or disclosed during the investigative process, unquote, in accordance with Commission Procedural Rule 11, subsection 4. The factual allegations against Tobiasson, as set forth in the formal statement of charges and other pleadings, affidavits/declarations, and exhibits filed in connection with previous writ proceedings before the Nevada Supreme Court, in this case, were already in the public domain, long before the Commission filed the formal statement of charges against Tobiasson. Tobiasson allowed herself to be interviewed by both television and print media organizations, as well as investigative journalists, the videos and audios of which have been widely publicized and circulated throughout Nevada and the country prior to the filing of public charges against Tobiasson. These very same videos and audios denote Tobiasson, in her own voice, implicating herself and admitting to many of the allegations contained in the formal statement of charges, which can easily be found on the Internet with the simple Google search. Tobiasson cannot unring the bell that she herself has rung by her actions in this case. Not surprisingly, Tobiasson's current counsel, as many of petitioner's former attorneys in these very same proceedings have likewise done previously, is attacking the Commission's constitutional, statutory, and procedural rule authority which has existed and developed in the state of Nevada over many decades since the 1970s. Tobiasson's counsel is also attacking the commission itself, the executive director and general counsel, individual commissioners, investigators, and the prosecuting officer for carrying out the very functions of the commission that the Nevada State Constitution and the Nevada legislature has specifically empowered it to utilize in fulfilling its responsibility to protect the public from judicial misconduct. Tobiasson's counsel further seeks to denigrate the commission and undermine its constitutional, statutory, and procedural rule authority by means of scorched earth tactics and propagating a false narrative of lies and engaging in a gross mischaracterization of facts, evidence, and law in hopes of delaying yet again the Commission's proceedings against petitioner, Tobiasson, casting aspersions on the Commission and personally attacking its staff, commissioners, investigators, and prosecuting officer, as well as fabricating unsubstantiated allegations of bias, bad faith, recklessness, failure to follow the law, and other ridiculous and meritless collusion/collaboration, confidentiality, and secret Star Chamber conspiracy theories appear to be Tobiasson's counsel's absurd and unprofessional reaction of choice to the filing of public charges against Tobiasson. These proceedings should not be permitted to be turned into a circus act or personal vendetta by Tobiasson's counsel on behalf of Tobiasson to deflect attention away from Tobiasson's audio admissions to alleged judicial misconduct that are in the public domain and scattered all over the Internet. Many of Tobiasson's counsel's attacks on the Commission and its constitutional, statutory, and procedural rule authority, as well as its long-standing practices and processes, have been previously addressed in various writ proceedings in this case, including related pleadings, exhibits, affidavits/declarations, and Nevada Supreme Court oral arguments. That is the end of the excerpts from Mr. Paul Dial. Wow, that was one hell of a response by the Judicial Commission. They didn't pull any punches on that one, and rightfully so. Good job. When the Commission referred to, quote, exhibits containing a multitude of news articles written by the journalists who interviewed Tobiasson, filed with the Nevada Supreme Court on April 9, 2020, in case number 80904, unquote, the Commission was referring to yours truly, and the over 75 pages of articles relating to Judge Tobiasson that are contained in that exhibit, that I authored and were published by the Baltimore Post-Examiner at the time. Once again, refer to the screenshots in this podcast to view the exhibit containing the articles. Be advised, Judge Tobiasson's motion to seal the exhibits and documents was dismissed by the Supreme Court of Nevada. That's all for this episode, folks. Thanks for listening, and remember, my new forum for my investigative journalism is this podcast, Truth and Consequences with Doug Poppa. Follow on YouTube and Facebook.